Well, hello and welcome. We are live and underway with this presentation on how to systemize and automate your trades business in the next 90 days. Thank you for joining me. My name's John Mailer and I'm part of the great team at ProTrade United. And I'll be with you for the next 45 to 50 minutes to share with you some simple yet powerful concepts to create an even better business. And I'll talk more about that as we get going. If this is your first time with us, congratulations, great to have you on the session. If you are someone who's been on a session with us before, welcome back and thank you for coming back as well. It's going to be pretty cruisy for you anyway, so relax, take some notes, and my goal is to present some options and concepts that you may or may not be familiar with, but to challenge the way that you're currently doing things in your business as well. So if you can be present, you will receive a recording in the next 24 to 48 hours from the team. So if you wish to watch this recording again, you can do so, or show it and share it with some of your team. That would be a benefit as well. And I'm also going to give you an opportunity to participate and be part of the session tonight, because I'm a big believer that none of us is as smart as all of us, if that makes sense. So how we're going to interact and support each other, and particularly, connect with myself, is you'll see a little chat box that should be popped up, usually on the right-hand side of the screen. So two things. In a second, I'll get you to say hello. But if you have any questions or queries or comments through the session, please type into the question box there, and that will come up to me. But if you'd love to say hello, which means you can hear me and see the screen, please click the little hand. And if you'd love to type into the chat box to get those little fingers working of yours, what sort of business are you representing, and whereabouts are you based? Because we have a lot of people on this call from all over Australia and New Zealand. So Charlton, g'day. Thank you for saying hello. Christopher, g'day. David, Denise, lovely to have you on your ball. Donald, Jason, hey Jason, always good to have you on a session like this. We got Nick, thanks Rodney, thanks Rowan. Please type into the chat box. Trent, g'day mate, how are you? It would be great to see where you are dialing in from. Nick from the Northern Painting in Tasmania, good on you. Rowan's from Painting in Sydney, good on you there. Charlie, good to have you on, mate. Good to have your presence on the session again, thank you. Denise, g'day from Adelaide Hills. Josh, electrical contractor in Adelaide, so another South Australian, which is great. Chris is an electrician in Perth. Dave from the Central Coast, New South Wales, got a painting company. G'day, Troy from Wellington, New Zealand, one of my favourite cities over in New Zealand there. Nick from Noosa, g'day, mate. I'm a fellow Sunshine Coaster as well, down here at Mount Coolum, so good to have you on the call as well. And Nick says another Tassie Sparky, so please keep chatting into the box. And g'day Clint from Security of Melbourne, so thank you for that. And I'll bring those up as we go through the session. So hey, all over Australia and New Zealand, so thanks for joining us for this session. We're going to keep it pretty jam-packed, and the intention for you is really to have you get some great concepts that you can implement into your business very simply and easily as soon as possible. And the reason why we do this, as we work with construction business owners around Australia and New Zealand, is to help them stabilise and streamline their business, which is a big part of this session today. So you've got consistency, and consistency of workflow, income, profit, and cash, which then gives you some choice. Yeah, if you want to scale or grow the number of projects you've got on board, maybe the number of vans or teams, but how do you do that profitably? And for some of you, you want to step back. You want to have the business run without your operational involvement, maybe just production and then overall operations as well. Some of our good-looking clients, as I said, love working with them, and 40% of our clients are couples, and we work from sole traders right up to some quite larger businesses that have in excess of 100 employees. But regardless of where you're at on that journey, we'd love to chat and connect. And if you'd love some support in working through some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, or any other aspect of your business, I'm going to give you an opportunity to connect with us a little bit later on as well. So just to check that you're in the right place. This is for someone who wants to think a little differently about your business, knowing that thinking shifts the way that your business, ultimately works. Because if you change your thinking, then you change your actions. And when you change your actions, the business can change as well. If you'd love to know what the number one barrier is that's keeping you stuck in your business, if you're feeling a bit stuck, that's okay. A lot of businesses at the moment, early 2022 are feeling a little flat, feeling a little stuck. If you want to create the steps to ensure quality work gets done on site without you, or regardless of whether you are on site or not, again, this is for you. What is your business? What procedures does your business need now? And if you'd like to secure some time off, because this is really all about giving you some time back. When you have some time, because time is a currency, but you want to be able to perform, equally as well. And a little bit about tech. Tech's not the be all and end all. It is important if you want to sort of streamline a few things, and we'll check that out as well. So from here, hey, the world is changing super fast, and I've had this slide up for a little while now, but I reckon in the last 2 years, since we've had the COVID scenario, and now we're entering into a new era, post-COVID, and inflation and interest rates are coming, and delays in materials and increasing cost of employing people. There's a lot of shifts and a lot of changes happening. And are you prepared for what's actually happening? Are you evolving? And that's what we're all about, is helping you prepare. You can't predict everything, but you can prepare for the things that are ahead. And you get to choose. You either evolve or you die. You become extinct. And we've seen that already this year, depending on what industry that you're in, whether it's large or it's small. There's been a few businesses that are extinct. They haven't made the transition. They haven't prepared themselves well enough for what's actually taking place. So for you, I just want to check in. I'd love your sharing, into the chat box. Just, type in anything that's on your mind right now. What's hardest for you? So what are the headaches? What's going on for you? Where does the business feel clunky? If you get lots of phone calls, I was on a session with a client this afternoon, reckons he gets 27 phone calls a day on average from people on site wanting him to help them fix problems. So that was a red flag for me. And I said, what if we could change it from 27 to 7? And he said, I think I'd get half my day back. So love to hear from you. Could you just type into the chat box, what are some of the challenges that are most pressing for you right now? There's no right, there's no wrong, but it just gives me an indication of what you're dealing with and how I can customize a little bit of the content we're going to chat about tonight. So away you go, just for 30 seconds. Please type away into the chat box there. Russell, g'day, good to have you on the call there from Brisbane North. Ahmad from Amarian Painting, lovely to have you on. Sean, g'day, Sean. So struggling to attract decent leads and keep on top of cash flow is one here. Josh has got efficiency with admin tasks while staying productive on the tool. Yep, the beast that the admin is becoming to be in a lot of businesses. Yeah, obtaining and hiring staff. Thanks, Russell. I've got Charlie's. Yeah. Stop the micromanagement of staff. Leanne, streamlining my pricing, staying competitive. Dave's got time management, cash flow. Keeping up with the admin, says Ryan, on the influx of work. Reporting consistency, says Leanne. Sean's got not enough leads. And so, we're really seeing in the industry at the moment, depending on what trade you've got, either too much work and not keeping up, can't get enough people to support that. Cash flow challenges, which could be a number of different little pain points there. Or now it could be things are slowing down a little bit, and how do I win the work that I'm wanting to have into 2022 and 2023? So thanks, Rowan, recruiting new staff. And Dean's got keeping up with managing operations, admin, and keeping up with the lead. So what I get from that is that we're all related. Whether you have 100 employees or you have 10 or you have 5, the challenges can be the same, but they've just either got more zeros on the end of them. And often people think, well, as my business grows, surely the hassles will go away. Well, actually, The hassles don't. You either just get better at managing them or they have a few more zeros on the end. So let's have a look at a few things before we get into the content. What are you working hard on? Now, we mentioned in this previous slide here, lots of things are causing you and working hard, but what are you actually working hard on? And, focus is not about what you say yes to. Are you willing to say no? And so what I've got, are you ready? Are you really ready to create a business that can operate with you having to be there all the time? Now, logically, the answer could be yes. So I was chatting to one of our painting clients this afternoon, and logically in his head, he's got 8. He's got a couple of teams, 8 on the team plus him and his wife. And logically in his head, he said, "Yes, listen, I know all the things that I want to have in place, and I know the business I'm out to create." But what's actually happened is he's almost addicted to being out on site, and it's really uncomfortable for him to have a business that operates from a production perspective without him having to be there. And so for him, when I say really ready, it's not are you ready age-wise, are you ready emotionally? Because it is a completely different feeling when you're actually not needed as opposed to feeling needed all the time. And you might say, well, is there some way in between? So I've got in this topic, it's about how to systemize and automate your business within 90 days. And if you really focus, you can shift and change anything within your business in the next 90 days with the right focus. But I am going to share with you that if you would love to create this business that operates independently with you, it can be a 12-month journey. It can be an 18-month journey. It can be a 2-year journey, depending on the type of business that you run. But you can definitely systemize and automate aspects of your production within the next 90 days that has you less out on the tools and focusing more of the value on the areas that matter most in your business. So the clear benefits, very quickly, you can generate greater income and profits. Now you might say, well, when I'm out on site, I'm actually generating, $1,500 a day for the business. Yeah, but every day that you're out on site is one day that you're spent not creating a business that gives you future income without you having to be there. Yeah, so there's trade-offs and payoffs. You get better productivity and efficiency, more free time. Time is a currency. A lot of people say, oh, listen, I've got a really profitable business. I say, yeah, but you're doing 90 hours a week. Okay, so what happens if you have a really profitable business and you did that in 40 hours a week? So how do you have the currency of profit and also time? You can scale if you want to. That's not always what people are after. You want to boost your business value. I'm a big believer that any business is for sale if you get it to the point where it's valuable to someone else. And if you want to create a business that's valuable to someone else, it has to really operate in a number of different ways without reliability on one single person. And then I've got control. And control, what I mean by that is not, control freak, but the business has a feeling that it's under control versus reactively jumping and you as the business owner running around like a headless chook. So the purposey, as he said, for what purpose do you want to create a systemized business? Well, create more time. One of the chats that I was involved with today with someone who's not a client yet mentioned he was working 80 hours a week. And the question came back is if you had another 20 hours a week, you're only doing 60. Or if you had another 10 hours a week, how would you choose to invest that? He had an 18-month-old child. He says, well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? I'd spend another, good chunk of that with my wife and my child and also going away on weekends. So, there's options available to you. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do, but it's a good indication. Obviously, growth from financial profit, develop your team, build the value. If you want to pass the business on to someone else in succession, in our eyes, is how do you pass the success that you've created onto someone else? Maybe you want to sell and you want to have some flexibility and choice. So as part of the gig today, I love to, help you play a game because I know most of us love to play a little bit of a game. Now, here's how this would work. You book a 3-month trip away from the business in 90 days time. So what are we? Early, mid, nearly late March, nearly the end of March. So how about this, 1st of July? You book 3 months off the grid. You can only chat or connect with the business once a week. Okay, you can see financials though, your scorecard or schedule via limited internet, and you have 90 days to prepare. Are you up for that? That's their game if you're wanting to create some fun for this. And the reason why is I just want to share with you that this is Jay and Krista, who have been working with us on and off for the last 4 to 5 years. They've just come back from, it was actually late last year, they did 4 months in WA, and they have 3 young kids, and they chose to take the kids out of school and do 3 months traveling around. Now, Jay has about 12 on the team, and this was a good 2 to 3 year process, but he went from having no time away to having a week off to 2 weeks to a month off to 6 weeks to 2 months and to eventually 3 months. So when Jay says, listen, if it's possible for me and Krista, it's possible for anyone, that's really the truth. Now that's one reason why they wanted to systemize and automate their business, but you might have other reasons. Yeah. So what's your current approach? Here's a couple of things to consider. For most of us, and I'll put myself in this category as a business owner, there was either the control freak or, I'm completely over this, I'll throw them in the deep end and see whether they can sink or swim. Now, maybe you want to type into the chat box and I'll anonymously, call out a few things. Are you tending to be the control freak? Just type in CF. Or are you deep end person? Just type in DE. Are you a control freak or are you a deep end person? Okay, what have you got there? Well, 50-50 says what have you there? Control freak, control freak. Lovely, be honest. One's a deep end, control freak. So we're getting about, I think 60% control freak here and 40% throw them in the deep end. Control. Hey, and listen, it's funny. The smiley faces are there and exclamation marks as well. Now, the reason why I see most business owners as control freaks, because you are so proud of your craft. Yeah, you are masters of your craft, particularly the painters, by the way. The painters, the perfectionists, they want to stand back, and I'm not having a dig here. It's just through my experience in working with those finishing type trades is you want to be able to stand back, leave the site, be super proud about what you've created and know that it's, it's as perfect as it could be. And that's beautiful. However, your strength in that situation can also become your limitation. Yeah. And again, this painter I was talking to this afternoon, he says, I just want to make sure the job is perfect. And I said, well, how about we aim for progress, not perfection? Progress, not perfection. Now, the reason why I asked this question is because it's important to understand you. Because when I talk about what is the biggest barrier in your business progressing, who do you think shows up? There's a big photo of you with a big smile on your face. That is the barrier. So if you can acknowledge that you're the barrier, then you can go to work on it. But if you're not prepared to acknowledge that you're often the sticking point, the blockage, the constraint, then you'll never progress in your business. Yeah, but it's usually your beliefs, your expectations, your lack of willingness to gradually let go that will cause you to remain stuck. But that's what we work with clients on. We help them through a structured process to ensure that that takes place. So let's have a look. From here, I've got some questions for you just to see where you're at. So when a breakdown occurs, and let me give you some context around breakdown, when something doesn't go to plan, maybe a job has errors, maybe there's a miscommunication between the office and who's on site, maybe someone isn't getting paid, maybe someone didn't send an invoice out, maybe there was not enough details in the job software, so when the guy started it they made some mistakes or didn't order the right materials. That's a breakdown. Yep. So the first question I have is, when a breakdown occurs and you think of something that may have happened today or this week or even the last week within your business that has caused you some frustrations, the first question I have is, has a system or procedure or checklist been written to cover what to do in this situation? So for example, this painter, I said, how do you ensure that the job is handed over to the client, in this best way possible. He's got an 8 on his team. He says, well, I just go on the side and I cast my eye over it. I said, so it's your eye, but what if your eye's not there? So what was missing in his business that would make the difference is a checklist. So it's a handover checklist so that the foreman or whoever is managing the job could go around the site and run through. And we quickly drafted out 18 things that could be on that handover checklist. Yeah, 18 things that he casts his eye over. So we've got to get it out of his head and into a checklist. So if someone doesn't have something that's written, okay, you know where to look, and it's in the mirror or at that picture of yourself that we've just been talking about. Has the above been fully communicated and extensive training and practice been implemented? So you might say, yeah, I wrote a checklist out and I showed it to the guys at a toolbox talk about 6 weeks ago, and then you're frustrated that they actually haven't been following it. Well, here's the gap. You showed them the checklist, you talked about it briefly, and then you assumed that they understood everything on the checklist and could follow it in exactly the same way that you wanted it to be followed. So the truth is that in breakdowns within a business, only 4% of the time is it human error. 96% of the time is it because there's a lack of a procedure, policy, or checklist. So coming back to that again, if you're prepared to look in the mirror, understand that you are responsible. And with this painter this afternoon, I said, you know what the first question I want you to ask every time you walk on site now and see something that's not done to your expectations? And usually, what do you think the first question that a lot of business owners would say? Whose bloody stuff up is this? Whose fault's this? I said to this guy, I said, I want you to ask this question. What can I be responsible for? He goes, what can I be responsible? Yes, you as a business owner hired these people, put them on site, gave them the job to do. Did you give them all the tools that you possibly could to help them do their best job possible? They don't deliberately stuff up, make mistakes, and do a poor job. But have you given them all the best tools? Challenging. So we're going to run through the following 7 steps. Yeah, we're going to look at how to create the plan, engage your people, map out the processes, prioritize your rollout, look at your productivity, practice, and then prepare for what ifs. So that's the gig. Yep. So number 1, let's get into it. Create the plan. What is the outcome that you're wanting to create? What's the outcome, the intention? Why are you doing it? Who's on the team? What are the timeframes? And what's the process? So an example in this situation, okay? So with Aidan this afternoon, we were talking about what's the outcome? Well, he said, I want my team to be able to hand over a job to a customer without me being there. Why? Well, it doesn't mean that I have to be on site for every job. And what would that give you? Well, less anxiety, more time, and have me ability to work on other aspects of the business. Beautiful. So who on the team is important? Well, actually all the people on the team. Yeah, great. So when do you want to implement this and have this really rocking by? And he said, okay, what about by the end of April? Easter's coming up. We've got a few little holidays. Perfect. All right, then let's get into the process. Yep. So that's just one example. You know, another one could be, you know, where we go back to Jay and Krista, who are went on their 3-month trip. Most importantly, whilst they were away, is that invoicing needs to be done promptly. So obviously, you know, the promptness of invoicing ensures that most of the time people are paid on time, and then there's less data having to be followed up, and cash flow is in a good space. So the outcome is we want to be able to send out invoices within 24 hours of the job completion. Why? Well, it flows on to being paid and positive cash flow. Who involved is in the team? Well, it's the person making sure that the job management software is updated and signed off on, and any variations of the job are, you know, completed or attached. What time frame? Okay, you work that out, and then you map out the process, and then you do the training. So first and foremost, that's the real gig. What is the outcome and why is it important? From there, you want to engage your team. If you want to get people involved in a game to help you, you've got to help them understand. So you've got to paint the picture. So this is Andrew on the side from 100% Plumbing, one of our Melbourne-based clients. He has probably 10 vans on the road. So, you know, he's got a pretty decent team. you know. And one of the things he recognized early on from when we first started is that he wants to shift and make some changes in his business and implement some procedures and systems. He has to get his team involved. Yeah. So one of the things that he implemented was I think it's Tuesday morning, he gets the guys in early, he puts on a brekkie, he gets the guys to wash the vans, restock the vans, and it's an opportunity to have a group team meeting and also review the previous week, talk about what's coming up in the week ahead, any systems and changes that have been made in the business, and get his team involved in the opportunity. So one of the things that they wanted to improve was their gross profit. So in this situation, Andrew needed to talk to his team about what gross profit actually is. Now, if you're a business owner sitting there thinking that, wouldn't it be great to get a greater gross profit in my business? Yet you haven't talked to your team about what gross profit actually is, and also had them understood how they can help improve gross profit, well, then that's where you've got to start. Yeah. So you don't have to share all the numbers, but you've got to talk to the team about what's important. So you've got to paint the picture, highlight what is the opportunity for everybody. Ask for suggestions, involve them in the process, and then acknowledge and reward. So one of the things that Andrew did, he shared it conceptually how the business operates, how it makes money and how it loses money. And when it does lose money, where does it come from? Well, it comes from his pocket. Yeah. And then he talked to them about how everyone on the team could be more efficient. Now, being a service and maintenance business, if he's got a guy in a van 38 hours a week driving around, it's important to have as many of those 38 hours billable to a job. Would you agree? And if you're in a construction or a project-based business, whenever your guys are on site, to have as many of those hours billable to the job. So he asked for suggestions on how they could improve that efficiency. Okay, and what happened is, because he's got his guys engaged in wanting to run an even better business, they're the ones who came up with some simple but really powerful ideas. Like, park the van as close to the job site as possible to save, the extra meters that are involved in walking backwards and forwards from the job to the actual van to get equipment, tools, etc. They talked about planning all of their purchases from suppliers, in advance, so that you minimize reactive trips to the suppliers during the day. They talked about what the minimum requirements in each van were needed from an equipment perspective to minimize those things, and the list went on. Yeah. So I just want you to think about, if you want to get your people engaged to help you run a better business, you've got to talk to them, you've got to get them involved, you've got to take the time out of doing the work to actually involve them in that, and then acknowledge and reward them. So on a quarterly basis, what he does, he shares aspects of what the gross profit numbers are with his team, and if they've been able to get some traction and improvement, he shares a percentage of that extra gross profit with his team in a number of different ways. So number 2, engage your people. I trust that makes sense. Number 3, we've got to map out the processes. So a process or a procedure is like a recipe. Yeah? It's how you want it to be done your way in your business. Now, some people might say, well, I employed this Sparky, he's got 15 years experience, surely he knows how to rough in a house construction project, fit off XYZ. Now, yes, there will be a base level of expectations, but do they do it the way that you want it to be done in your business? And as you know, talking about that to all the electricians on the call, or even plumbers on the call, you know how many different ways that you can do it to make it look neat and tidy and professional. Now, what are you going to measure as far as the quality? And you also want to have some way of measuring what's happened in the business and what is happening coming up in the business. So what is a system or a procedure? It's what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, when, how, and who needs to do it. So let me give you an example. Probably one of the simplest, aspects of construction is mixing up maybe mortar or cement. Now, there's not a lot of ingredients, is there? It's not like you've got you're on MasterChef and you've got 20 different ingredients in a recipe and they all have to be done at a particular time. But in this scenario, you're mixing up some cement. Now, I've got 4 different pictures here of people doing it in 4 different ways. Now, no one's wrong, no one's right. But if you've got something that you want to be done in your business in a certain way, what is the recipe? So one of our clients in Melbourne, he runs a paving business. So he's, a paving specialist. Now, depending on the type of pavers he's using, in what scenario and situation, he uses different mortar mixes, and he has an exact recipe for each. He says that there will be none of our apprentices on site just dangling a hose into a mixer until they think that the consistency is right. He says we have a precise recipe, and water, because it's one of the key things as far as that viscosity goes, is measured almost by the millimeter. Yep. So even though it looks the same, it is not the same. And it's so important that you get that. You have to invest the time to document how you want things done in your business in a particular way. So Brooke runs an amazing company in Brisbane called Brooks Blooms. She started up as a sole operator. So Brooke started, when I first met Brooke, she was on the tools, she was mowing lawns, doing the hedges, a little bit of softscapes. And over the last 8 years, she has built this up to an organisation of over 50 people. Now, the thing that has allowed Brooke to be able to do that is she has documented how she wants aspects of her garden maintenance business done on every site. So every site has a playbook. So that if you go to 123 Smith Street, you have a playbook that is fully documented about how to get in through the security, what order you want the jobs done in, what the dogs' names are, what you need to do to communicate with the customer after you've left the site, and every aspect of what needs to be done on every job site. Now that's the playbook. That's the playbook for Brooks Blooms on every site that they have. And that's enabled her to allow her team to grow and evolve, and her to be able to trust and know that all of her sites are being looked after in a really powerful way, because it's been done the way that she wants it to be done. And she has an extensive onboarding training program that we helped her set up so that she's got an amazing outcome for her business as well. So that's Brooke. So I want you to go back to mixing cement. Well, you might say, well, there's mowing lawns and there's hedging and there's weeding and there's all of those types of things. They're not really complicated jobs, but there are ways that she wants it to be done. So I want you to think about that in your business. Now, regardless of whether you're painting, you're a refrigeration, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're in landscaping, there'll be 80% of the things that you do each and every day, you'll be able to write systems and procedures for. The other 20% might be more bespoke and need a little bit more detail. But think about the 8 out of 10 procedures that could really start having some documentation around. The reason why is we want consistency, and the consistency for the customer so they get what they expect, consistency for your team so they know what to deliver on, and consistency for you because the consistency in the back end leads to consistency in income, profit, and cash. Now, I want to give you a little bit of an asterisk and a heads up here. Sitting down, writing checklists or recipes, whatever you want to call it, can be like watching grass grow. It can be like eating gravel. It's boring. There's no immediate gratification, okay? I'm not here to tell you and pretend that it's anything different. When Brooke sits down and writes out a procedure for 123 Smith Street, the code required, the dog's name, the parent's name, the kids' names, the types of plants, how she wants the hedging done, how the lawns are supposed to be manicured. There's nothing exciting about that. But the immediate gratification that you miss out on comes down the track when you have a business that starts to tick over and operate without you operationally or production-wise being there. Does that make sense? So what are the core processes? What are the areas of the business that you can start pulling apart to write some of these recipes? Now, right at the start, lead generation. So if you have social media posting, okay, What's the type of photos that you wanted? What are the comments? What's the language that you use? Maybe you have logos and branding that you use in particular ways. When the inquiries come in, how do you handle the inquiry? What are the words that you use? How do you greet the customer? Then how do you put your pricing? How do you package things up? How do you put your proposal together? How do you meet the customer if it's more of a project space? Then how do you deliver the work? How you want it to be done? Invoicing, financial, hiring. You know, a lot of people have recognized they've been caught out in the last 12 months that they didn't have any hiring processes. Those people who've had a hiring process who were on the front foot 12 months ago, they're the ones who've got the A-grade people. And maybe it's not the hiring, it's the keeping. Okay, what do you have in place to keep your team? Communication structures internally with customers, with suppliers, training and development. You know, that's a starting point. Now, I'm going to suggest that most of you will have in excess, if you were to sit down and really map out all of the different checklists and procedures, in excess of 100. And you might say, holy dooly, 100. And I say, listen, think big, start small. If you focused and wrote one procedure every week for the next 12 months, that's 50. Yep. Do it another year, that's 100. I tell you what, you are going to have a business that is more valuable, more robust, more consistent, more profitable than 80% of the other businesses out there if you're prepared to do the work. All right. We then want to prioritize the rollout. So of all of these, what are the ones to work on first? You might say, well, John, if there's 100, where do I start? Well, here's somewhere to look. Look at where you're most involved. So if you are most involved in being out on site and you feel that there's better value in the business with you elsewhere, that's where you could start. If you're involved in a lot of the quoting, estimating, that's where you could start. Because there's also a risk. Where you're most involved is also the biggest risk. Because if you are not there, if something happened to you, if for whatever scenario, something needed to have you out of the business, family emergency, health emergency, how would the business continue to evolve and grow, or even just stabilize? Or maybe you want to start with the customer journey, because remember, your customers are your best salespeople. How they experience your business. You know, if you're wanting 5-star Google reviews, you want to make sure that you have rolled out a 5-star experience for your customers. So Salmon Plumbing, John has got a great team, and he's been in business 30 years. And the beautiful thing about John is he recognizes he does not know it all, and that he's always open to learning and growing. So for his guys, what he did is he wanted to improve his gross profit. How he could improve his gross profit in his service and maintenance business was by getting his guys on site with their software to be able to upsell and make recommendations for additional services while the team were out on site. So he created some checklists the guys could do whilst they're out fixing a particular job, little complimentary check-in, and other opportunities would show up. And then he wanted to train his guys on how he could present those in a soft quote way to the customer and allow them to get the job done on site. He spent a lot of time building the pre-builds in the software that he utilizes, and then doing some training with his team to be able to follow those processes and systems. The benefit now is he's got a higher gross profit, his team are engaged, and the business is booming in so many more ways than it was previously. So simply start with a checklist. Don't have to write out a bulletproof system, in full detail. Just start with a checklist. So when we were talking to Aiden, the painter, this afternoon, what's your handover checklist? Doesn't have to be anything perfect. Let's just start thinking, okay, what's the first thing? What's the second thing? Okay, tidy job. Okay, check all joins, sealed. Okay, communication with the customer. Okay, ask any questions. Those are the types of things that you may want to consider as we go. Now, guys, what I'm going to do is very quickly in this situation just take a pause, because, by the way, I'll just show you this. These are, we talked about 100% plumbing. and also Dawson Electric, who's also one of our other clients, they've created their own 21 steps. Now, you may want to, you'll get a recording of this, obviously, so if you can't see these, but what they did is they created 21 steps to an amazing customer experience, and then they trained their team on it. So the beautiful thing about this is when they ask for a 5-star review and they don't get one, or there's a breakdown, they know it's because usually one of these steps has been compromised, skipped, missed, or not done fully. So I'm going to suggest that if you're looking to improve your customer experience, that you map it out and then you put it into steps, right from when the customer inquires, right from when payment is received at the other end and a follow-up call is done. Going to leave that with you. I'm just going to give you 30 seconds. I'm going to take a little quick breather and a quick drink, but whilst I do that, if you could type into the chat box, what's been most valuable? What's come up for you as a key take home so far? You know, if there was one thing you're going to go to work on in your business to create a little bit more structure, freedom, time, what would it be? I'm going to give you 30 seconds just to do so. I'll have a quick drink and I will be straight back. All right, what have we got here? All right, we've got a question here. Christian's got focus on checklists and training the text to follow. Start with a checklist. It's like, hey, when you look at if I go into the kitchen, I ain't a great cook, but you know, if I need to follow a recipe, I'll make sure I've got the ingredients and I'll follow the method. Now, it may not always turn out the way the picture looks, but you're going to have a better chance of me getting the outcome with a list of ingredients and a checklist to follow than not. Checklist and documented procedures. Thank you, Denise. Troy's got buy-in processes from our team. Absolutely. Charlie's got engage your people. Yeah, lovely. Dean's got creating procedure for every step of the journey. Do one a week. Simple. Break it down. If you allocated an hour once a week, just 1 hour out of your 40, 50 hours, committed to it, you'd be amazed at what you can create over the next 3 to 6 months. And Sean's got making sure every job is a checklist from start to finish. Sean's also got here, listen, I'm a one-man company. You know, I have to do everything. Yep, I've tried hiring an apprentice, but couldn't sustain the amount of work required to keep him on. Okay, need to find a way to have enough time to earn money, quote, grow the business so I can employ people to free up the time. So number one thing I'd be doing around that, that's a statement, I know, Sean, but one of the things is when you're a one-man person, you can be boutique. And when you are boutique, okay, you can offer greater service, more value. And if you educate the customer, you can also charge more for your services. So that's what I'd be looking at. Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't have enough leads. Well, I think we need to sort of look at how you position yourself in the market. And that's another conversation altogether, yeah? I see that you're an electrical contractor, but you know, electrical work now with home automation, you get the opportunity to be boutique, educate the customer. There's so many things that you could be working on, and if we get the chance to work with you on, we'd love to support you with that as well. I know when you're one man, I think most of us have probably been there. It's always a little bit more challenging, but you've just got to get out of that hamster wheel and get some momentum. All right. So as I said, this is Dylan and Christine. Now, when they first started working with us, Dylan was chained to the tools. They couldn't see way out. They were underpricing. They were way too busy. The quality wasn't there. If you Google Dawson Electric now, you will see a company that has probably over 160 5-star Google reviews. Dylan sort of smirks a bit. He feels like sometimes he's in semi-retirement because that's how little he's actually working in the business. But Christine has really worked hard on building systems and processes behind the team. She was the one who put together the 21 steps to customer excellence, and the team follow it. So again, Dylan and Christine say she's just come back from a week to Tassie. They're booked a trip to the States later this year for 4 weeks. So, you know, they always say if it's possible for, you know, us, it's possible for anybody. You've just got to sort of commit to the time to make it happen. Okay, productivity is the key. This is the next P. Profit leaks are everywhere in your business. You know it. But there's no line item in your expense column every month in the profit and loss. It says, poor profit leaks cost me $12,000. So what I want you to do is be rigorous with your productivity, because it's your productivity with processes that will lead to profitability. Okay, measure what matters in this situation. So what I mean by that is, what is most important to generate the greatest gross profit and then net profit in your business. So gross profit, you know, 3 key things around improving your gross profit. Make sure you're charging enough. You know, have you costed out your materials, your labor component? Are you charging enough for the job? Because if you're not charging enough, you're never going to be profitable. Once you've charged enough, you then need to be productive. You've got to deliver it with the efficiencies. And when we talk about, if you're paying your guys for 38 hours a week, this is one thing that I think that you could start measuring if you're not. If you're paying your guys, let's say 38, 40 hours a week, how many of those hours are actually actively billed to a job? And if you're not at least 35 of those 40 hours, okay, if you are not at 80% plus, that's where you've got to start. Okay, if you've got 20% of your hours that aren't charged, why not? All right, that's where you've got to be rigorous around that and start measuring it. And as soon as you start measuring it, you'll start improving it. And then create some checklists around improving productivity. Look at your overheads. If you're not monitoring your costs right now with inflation and what's going up each and every week, okay, well then you're going to be caught out. 3 months time, you look back and go, wow, our fuel bill's gone from this amount to this amount. Our insurances have gone from this amount, our utilities have gone up. What's going on? Okay, so productivity is going to be a key, but if you don't have perhaps a little checklist in your business to sit down once a month and look at your finances, which again is a process, you could be caught out. Measuring what matters. These are some things that I think are really important for you to measure in your business. Your labor efficiencies we talked about, your gross profit, errors and callbacks. What's that costing your business? Okay, you can't improve anything you're not measuring. If you're in the project space, are you completing them on time and under budget? Maybe overtime is blowing out. Again, if you've got things like that that are blowing out, I'm going to suggest that there's a lack of efficiency and a lack of a procedure in place. Again, time to work on the business. We've got to practice. How do we practice? Well, if you want to take time out of your business, if you want to have it operate production-wise independently off you, start practicing with short little bursts. Start with a day a week. Turn your phone off. Don't check your emails. Pick a day in the week that's going to work. It could be a Wednesday, it could be a Friday. Then take a long weekend. Then take a week away. And then review it and respond. So what I mean by that is, if you took a week away from your business, and let's presume there are going to be a few cracks that show up. Let's presume that there's going to be a few things that don't flow. When you get back, be responsible around how you handle it. Expect that there are going to be things that didn't flow. Great, let's sit down with your senior team. Let's write out everything that didn't go to plan, and let's review how we can ensure that it's taken care of next time. Review, respond. Don't blame and shame. Review and respond. Be responsible. Book another time. Book another time. Yeah? So I was speaking to one of our clients today who hadn't booked out any time out for the rest of the year with his family. He's got 3 young kids. I said, great. This weekend, sit down with your wife, book out your time away. Then make sure that you set your team up to succeed whilst you're not there. So make sure that you do that review and respond, and then prepare for what ifs. So before you do go away, even if it's for a day a week, a long weekend, a week, 2 weeks, document all the possible what if scenarios. And what I mean by that is, what if we don't get paid? What if there's a customer complaint? What if suppliers pop their prices up? What if one of the team resigns? What if we have a argument on site with another trade? Okay, what are all the possible solutions? Yep, and then make sure there's one person in charge whilst you're away, one person that is willing to take on, being the go-to person to deal with any challenges. It's your goal to set up your team to win. And last but not least, ultimately, who is responsible? Now, my favorite phrase at the moment is that when you take responsibility for everything in your life, you can change anything in your life. And if you're up for that, you can change anything in your business if you're up for being responsible around it. Okay, now we're going to talk very briefly about tech, but before I do so, hey, tech is not the be-all and end-all. If you don't have procedures in your business that you want the tech to support you with, then you're going to be working on implementing this technology and it's not going to benefit you. You are better off, spending 90 days putting some key procedures in place and then looking at the right software to help support you with that. Yeah, whether it's CRM, which is your customer relationship management, which is all about bringing in new leads and opportunities, whether it's your scheduling, whether it's your invoicing, whether it's monitoring customer service, maybe it's keeping your records and your admin, maybe it's meetings and team communication. These are all areas where you can have some technical automation. And a number of our clients are really embracing this. Just a quick snapshot though, these are, some key things to consider when choosing some software. Understand the challenges that most companies face when moving to a digital platform. It's hard, it's messy, and then it's beautiful at the end. You have to find out what's important to you and your team. It's not just, oh, listen, I've heard so-and-so is using Simpro, or so-and-so is using Builder-Price, or so-and-so is using, HazardCo. Oh, we should use that too. No, it's actually, what do we want the tech to be doing in our company? And then cater to the generations and the expectations of your crew. Remember, you might have people that are varying from 16 to 60 in your business. 16-year-olds are going to go, how cool is this? 60-year-olds are going to go, oh my goodness, this is really scary. So again, technology is important, but make sure you've got the procedures in place and then understand what you want the software to do. And these are just some recommendations, that we've been working alongside now for a while. Tradeify is more of a job management software for smaller companies. HazardCo is great at taking care of all of the OH and HES and admin to do with workplace health and safety. Builder-Price is a great one for construction. Simpro is obviously a pretty meaty product that works well for a number of organisations. And GroundPlan is one that we're starting to work with as well. So there's some sites to check out. But again, often the best way to look at whether a software product is beneficial to yourself is go and chat to and sit in with another business who's using a platform that you're thinking about using. Yeah, that's really the key. So practice until you can't get it wrong. So everything is hard until it becomes easy. So it's not about practicing until you think you've got it right. Practice till you cannot get it wrong. Alrighty, so from here, I want you to think, if at the moment you're experiencing life is like waking up every morning, going out into the fog, not quite sure if you're heading the right direction or not, you're not alone. It's been a crazy start to the year, a false start in a lot of ways. Projects have been held up. COVID's been in and out of most businesses, holding up the team. Depending on which city you're in, Eastern Seaboard, truckloads of rain, flooding, you name it. So it's quite understandable to feel this way, but our goal is to help you get some clarity about the direction that you'd like to move with moving forward. So if what you found today being beneficial, then, I'll be with you for another couple of minutes. We've created a step-by-step approach. We call it the Business Mountain. And what this does is gives you a customized approach to take the next best step for you in your business. Excuse me while I cough here. Our goal is to get most businesses to at least to space level, which is green, where you get solid, consistent financial profits and solid, consistent time, which gives you space, gives you options. And we have an approach that takes people on this journey, depending on what speed they want to get to, and they want to take to get there as well. To start off with those, it'd be great to see where you're at. So one of the things that we wanted to offer you for being on this session is a chance to really sit down with a team and explore where you want to take the business, get some clarity. Yeah. Have a look at where your current business is working at the moment. What are the obstacles and challenges that you may be experiencing? And then give you some specific recommendations to work with your business in the trade and construction space. So if that's something, it takes about 60 to 90 minutes, depending on how things flow. Sit down with a cuppa. The worst case scenario is you get some real clarity about what you're wanting to create and take the next best steps moving forward. So if that's you, what I'd love you to do is, we've got the poll there, and I'd love you to click yes. If it's a no, it's a no. That's totally cool as well. If it's an unsure, just, and you want some more information, click unsure, and one of the team will be in touch to give you some more details around what that session looks like. There's no obligation in any way, shape or form to do anything with ProTrade. It's our gift and our chance to help improve your business and the construction industry as we go. So if that's something that excites you, either tick a yes or an unsure. If it's a no, that's totally cool as well. So just give you another sort of 5 or 6 minutes, 5 or 6 seconds, I should say, and I'll close that off. To round things up tonight, what I would love is for you to share in the chat box, and I'll close that right now. Thank you for that. Pop into the chat box. What's been most valuable for you as we wind things up? If there's one thing that you've been excited about, challenged about, keen to move and progress forward on, that would be terrific. Or if you've been confronted, please do so as well. Love to hear what you've got from the session. Knowing in mind that, systemizing your business, automating it is a journey. It's always constant improvement, but you've got to start somewhere. Yeah. And I trust that there's been some value for you tonight that's helped you with it. It's great to have you on the session from all over the country. Josh has got a question here. How much experience have I with ServiceMate? We don't have a partnership with them, but we have a number of clients who are using ServiceMate, and depending on the type of business that you're in. And Josh, I don't know quite the size that you have. Electrical contractor from Adelaide. Yep. Hey, listen, it's a great platform from what I understand. A number of the clients who we work with who use it are very, very happy with it as well. Checklist, says Jason, thank you so much. There is hope, says Sean, that I can turn my business around. Checklists, I can be duplicated. Absolutely, says Karen. Denise says, I've already booked. Fantastic. Ryan says, systemizing and setting aside time to do so and share the load with the team. Beautiful. Different approach to looking at business. What's needed to change, says Russell. Thank you. Nick says, what can I be responsible for? Great question, isn't it? It's empowering, it's challenging. And Leanne's got, I'm in the process of doing a setup with Simpro. Fantastic. Massive undertaking, yes. It is terrific there as well. Peter's got, what involvement do you have with NZ? We have a number of clients all over the North and the South Island there. So working with a number of different trades there at the moment, Peter. Beautiful. And Ahmad, you're welcome. Thanks for being on the session, and thank you for saying thank you. So guys, have a great evening. All the very best. Be in touch if there's anything else we can support you with, and continue to make a stand for being a professional of your trade. Talk to you soon.